Welcome back, everybody. Very special episode for you guys. We have one of our Chart Addicts coaches, incredible trader and an old friend of mine, Ryan Carstons, on the show today. He's going to be walking us through his experience in trading, working with students and other traders over the years, and some lessons that we've both been able to pick up from our trading and from our experiences. So, Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Roy. I appreciate it. As always, it's been quite the journey for me. And who knew it started just from being in college.
Yep.
Joined the same fraternity, and then here we are.
So Ryan and I went to school together. We kind of had this small group of individuals who were investing in crypto. This kind of early pre-2017 boom. Some crazy experiences there. That was he and I's first experience trading together. And then over the years, we sort of went off did our own things. And now we've reconvened over this passion of trading. Ryan, do you want to walk people through a little bit about you, what you do, where you're at?
Yeah, of course. So basically, my name is Ryan and 27 years old right now. I'm living out in Salt Lake City, Utah at the moment. And basically how I got into trading was, well, really crypto, which I wasn't really trading crypto, let's be honest. I was really just buying crypto. And I got in, 2016, 2017 timeframe when I really got curious about it because it was just such a foreign concept. And so that's kind of how I got into trading. And that's how me and Roy, we started kind of like a little get together in Richmond, Virginia. We used to meet up every month talking about cryptocurrencies and what to invest in. But to be honest, I had no clue. Zero clue how to trade. I didn't know anything. I could barely explain to you what a trend line was. And so, we fast forward a few years later, Roy, Chart Addicts, Omar, they've got that thing, firing on all cylinders. And I saw how much growth they were doing, how much content they were producing just by following them on Instagram. And, I was like, piqued my interest. I want to learn this. I want to learn this because, it was during the pandemic too. Don't forget, it was pre-pandemic. And so there was a lot of time on our hands. And I just said, this is a skill that I want to learn. I don't want to just watch Netflix. I don't want to just do things that aren't really going to improve me, right? So reached out, signed up immediately that same day because I trusted the process. I trusted the integrity. And from there, I just learned how to trade. I had really good mentorship. And then lo and behold, I get to the point where I have the opportunity to become an actual coach, trading coach. And now I'm helping out Roy in the company with the ACP program that we started, the Accelerated Coaching Program. So very high intense program. It's like a boot camp. And we really take on some serious traders, people that really want to improve their game. And so, I'm helping out with that now. So it's been crazy to see my journey just as, a trader to where I am now, where I almost feel like I'm giving back to the community. So that's just my background as how I got into trading. But I also, have a full-time job. I know some people are curious, do you have a full-time job or are you a full-time trader? Can you do both? You can do both. Roy was doing it. I was doing it. Omar was doing it. A lot of people do it. The thing is, you need to have your priorities straight. You need to have time management skills. You need to know what to do, when to do it. I work a full job as a software developer. And so for me, that takes a lot of my time, but I still am able to allocate time to trading just because, I have my priorities straight. So that's kind of just my background.
And there's just on the topic of having a job in trading, there's a lot of things that, trading can't teach you, right? So you working in all these major companies and working at Goldman Sachs and being around all these people, it gives you an advantage over learning certain things that you just might not be exposed to just on the charts or just by doing your own independent research. So that's really cool. I love doing these episodes because you guys are super humble for no reason. As Ryan picked this shit up pretty quick, and he's an incredible student. The way that he's able to explain and the way that he's able to break things down is the reason that we brought you on as a coach. But at the end of the day, Ryan, you showed that success from early on. It was you just took the principles. You didn't try and fight it. You kind of just followed this process, followed the system, and it worked. You're like, well, you're telling me if I wait for multiple confirmations, the probability of the trade is higher? Let me just wait for more confirmations, and it started to play itself out. So Ryan, let's talk about lessons in your trading. Give us some things that you feel like you've learned in your development over the past few years that have allowed you to be more and more comfortable over time in trading.
So many skills. I'm only going to name a few though, just for the sake of time. But I will say this: because ChartAddicts was the very first education platform, the service that I paid for, I didn't, I guess, learn any bad habits, or I didn't get misinformation, right? I knew that the information I was getting was quality, and the system that was put in place was going to take somebody who was an infant in the industry, infant in the field, and properly prepare them to be able to walk. And so for me, I feel like I got to skip all the BS going through the years and years of the hamster wheel, if you will. So I think just paying for that service, paying for yourself, investing in yourself, it saves a lot of time. As far as like the tools that I would say I learned and obtained while being at ChartAddicts, discipline is huge. A lot of times it's like, I remember this. I would try to jump into every freaking trade. Anytime someone posted a markup, I had to look at that chart. I had to look at that pair. Oh, what's this pair doing? Anytime anyone was in a trade, I just wanted to enter a trade. And I realized that was partially because of my ADHD, and I'm just chasing dopamine hits left and right, like Ichiro Suzuki's hitting singles out to left, out to right field. But I realized you have to have some sort of discipline when you're trading. Like, you have to know when to say no. Like, no is hard. It's easy because of the concept of infinite amount of money that could be made in this market, right? You can make money at 1 a.m., 5 a.m., 9 a.m. So for me, it was almost Pandora's box open. Like, I can make money any time of the day, but really it's knowing when to enter and when not to enter. So for me, learning discipline, because people like you and Omar and all of our great educators preach that day in and day out, every night. If you're a member of ChartAddicts, you know the calls we're doing. We're always preaching, be disciplined with the charts, be disciplined with yourself, and you don't have to push the button. Okay. So for me, like, that was a skill that I learned quickly after a lot of trial and error.
Yep.
Discipline for sure. And I think, to your point, you were alluding how a lot of things in trading will teach you a lot of things about life, and vice versa. I think trading has taught me more than almost college taught me in some aspects about who I am and how to like see the world. So for me, being able to say no and being able to know when the right opportunity presents itself and being disciplined, that carries over to your life. 100%. Hey, you know what? Like, I really haven't gotten all my work done today. I really probably shouldn't be sitting on social media for 2 hours. You know what I mean? So like, right. it translates.
100%. Were there some key experiences that stood out to you that helped you reach those realizations? Are there a few experiences in your trading where you're like, you know, you touched your hand on the stove and it led you to have those sort of growth moments?
You know, I'll be honest. So I didn't really have my first lesson until I really got into funded trading. So I got into trading, I learned how to trade, I got the proper mentorship, and I felt pretty good. And so I was, encouraged to try this out, try out the funded challenges, and I did. And believe it or not, I passed the very first time I ever took one. It was a FTMO 100K account challenge. And I think that honestly was a good thing and a bad thing, because I got it so easily, very quickly. I see a lot of stories. Oh man, I failed this challenge again for the 5th time. Like, what am I doing? I got it done the first time, finished early. I was like, oh, this shit's easy. Hell, I could do this. I'm invincible. I didn't know that at the time, but looking back. And so I ended up blowing that account probably a month and a half, 2 months afterwards. I never got a full payout after I completed both phases. So I would say for me, that was one of the biggest learning lessons I took away was trading will teach you, like, the minute you feel invincible is when you're in danger. You should never feel invincible in a market where there is no such thing as 100% probability. This is a probability game, right? So I think humility plays a huge role in this as well, because once you feel like, oh, like, man, like, I think I found this holy grail setup, or I found the perfect strategy. It's going to have a X, like 75, 80% win rate. I'm going to win. I can over leverage. I can do this and that. That's when you're going to get in trouble. And so for me, I learned that the hard way, because I put in that grind, getting that account, just for it to be taken away that quickly. And so for me, that taught me a lot about humility and patience and discipline.
I've been in that same boat. I think like 2020 when I got my first funded account, that was my biggest lesson, because you'll see how much progress that you can make, especially if you have an extended phase 1, phase 2, not a quick pass, but if you have an extended phase 1, phase 2, takes you a while, you finally earn it, you take a few months of being disciplined, and then you start to feel like you've quote unquote figured out the markets. As soon as you feel like you figured it out, that's when you lose that edge of focus and attention, and paying attention to risk as opposed to just paying attention to the upside. So you've worked with a ton of students at Chart Addicts. You've had a chance to be a coach. You've also had a chance to be an advanced coach. You've also had a chance to be an educator. What habits do you see other traders have that have either made you a better trader, or that you just see consistently in other people and you see as a problem in trading?
You know, it's funny that you say that, because I just finished my round of ACP education with 2 students. God bless them. They're some of the best people I've ever worked with. I've learned, I truly believe this. If you're teaching somebody something, if you don't have the open-mindedness to learn something from your student, then you are not playing this game right. Because you should always have a white belt mentality in life. No matter how successful you are, if you go from VP to president to the CEO, founder, whatever, even the founder doesn't know everything, right? We're all learning. So for me, I always try to like step back and be like, you know, I know a lot, but maybe I can learn something from this student, right? So for instance, I had a student, and his name's Randeep. He might be a coach for us, who knows, one day. And this guy, I'm telling you, man, like fresh out the womb, no trading experience whatsoever, right? One of the most disciplined traders I've ever met. Crazy, like more disciplined than I was, no doubt. He's trading just GJ. And I'll check in with him every week, and he'll be like, didn't see a move at all, not once this week, didn't enter a trade. I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, damn, like this guy's got that discipline. He really understands, like he's looking at the market, he's waiting for his confirmations. And so for me, that almost is kind of like a reinforcement of my own ideology on how I am as a trader. Like, could I be more disciplined like that? Do I need to be entering as many trades as I currently am? So for me, that was one thing I took away, is like, just from somebody who was quote unquote like a beginner, or quote unquote like not as experienced, I took something away from that. And I think anybody that's watching this, if you are a profitable trader or a successful trader, or you are even teaching people, like, don't think you're the shit. Like, yeah, you can have the confidence, but understand, like, there is so much more for you to learn. And if you have this mentality that you're better than everybody else, then you're going to miss those gems, like I found.
The markets are going to humble you. The markets will humble any trader that starts to consider themselves smarter than the market, if that makes sense. Like, if you feel, as soon as you start to feel like you've beat the game, that's when you're going to start losing. There is no beating this game. There's only self-development, and you have to show up every time as your best self and put on your best performance. And the second you stop doing that, you're going to get booed off the field, or you're going to get your contract revoked. So
it's a performance.
It's a performance.
Yeah, you got to perform. You got to perform for sure. And it's a changing environment. That's what people don't understand. It's like they think the market is just going to like be linear, but like we have news, we have fundamentals, we have the technicals, we have the psychology. So like, no, every day is different. Like, like we talk about this all the time. Like, I know you trade NAS a lot. And so like, you see all the aspects that go into that particular pair. It's not just the technicals. And so, every day is a different day. Like yesterday was a different day than the day before, right?
For sure. Adaptability is the most important thing for a trader. I think that one of the big misconceptions today is that if I buy this course and I learn this information, this is going to be relevant for the next 10 years. Now, a lot of that information is, right? Like all the stuff that we teach about probability, all the stuff that we teach about uncertainty, about risk and reward, that's going to be relevant no matter what. But in terms of market cycles and confirmation entries and certain things, a trader always has to be adaptable. So how have you seen yourself adapt to the different conditions? Because you started trading when markets were bullish back in 2020, 2021, and then things started to slow down and become a little bit less volatile this year. So how have you seen your trading adapt over the past few years?
That's a great question. Well, I'll say this much. It's really easy to make money in a bullish market. Ask all the crypto investors. ask all the crypto millionaires. They're like, oh yeah, just buy this crypto. It's really promising and everything's going up at the same time because Bitcoin's going up. It's not hard. But now when everything's going down, when we're in a bearish market, bearish cycle, you kind of see who knows what they're talking about. Patrick Bet-David says it all the time, like the recession is going to weed out all the fakes and phonies, and only the real soldiers, the real people who are digging their time in the dirt, they're going to be the ones that stand up and everyone's going to see them. So I think that this like recession bearish market has been really good to almost set realistic expectations of what the market is going to be, right? Like not everyone's going to win, let's be real. I would say for me, during like going through these different phases, the one thing I do take away is understanding how to trade with news and around news. So for me, like because I trade a lot of different FX pairs, there's a lot of different economic policies that could affect the trade that I'm in, or affect the pairs that I'm looking at, right? So for me, being able to learn more about the fundamentals, thanks to you and your outlook calls and all the sauce that you bring from that perspective, I think that's something that I was really like lacking when I started. Like now I feel like I really do have a much better understanding of how the economy runs, the economic policies. I'm following things daily now, like just reading the news. So for me, I feel like I've gotten more educated from that aspect, and being able to use the fundamentals to assist the technicals. It's like a really nice symbiotic relationship, Like, yes, technicals are really important for sure. And yes, fundamentals can play a role. I think I was able to kind of combine the two. And I think I really encourage everybody to really educate yourselves, understand the economy more. That's not something that we really get taught in school, right? That's just, they don't teach us how to budget. They don't teach us how to do financial planning, none of that. So I think if everyone became more financially literate, economically literate, it'll help not just trading, but just our livelihood. So that's one thing I definitely took away, was learning the fundamentals more.
It's something that people don't pay attention to because it's complicated on purpose. I feel like if it was a lot easier to understand, a lot more people would be able to take advantage. But there's so much distance between the actual news and the way it's presented to people. With, like, let's say, like, if you heard the news from Bloomberg or from Yahoo, they're already going to put their spin or their narrative on top. And so that's sort of where a lot of the issue comes with following news. Now, you've worked with a lot of people on breaking habits. What are some tips or exercises that you've been able to recommend that have helped individuals improve either their discipline, their consistency, or just their overall efficacy on the charts?
So there's a few things that I've done, especially for people that, like, not everyone picks things up at the same pace, right? Like I think sometimes I would consider myself a slow learner, right? And so like for me, what helps is when things are, when I have really good explanations, analogies, metaphors that I can relate to something that I understand. Like for instance, I understand exercising. I understand how to like nutrition, things like that. That makes sense to me. If someone can give me an analogy based off of that, a topic I already have a strong understanding of, and then relate it to trading, now I'm able to kind of chunk the information together and make it easier for me to comprehend it. So what I do is I do something called one thing is the Pareto Principle. And so basically what the Pareto Principle says is 80%, you should focus on 20% of the things that will give you an 80%
of the results
return versus the 80% of the you don't want the inverse. You don't want to focus on 80% of the stuff that's only going to give you 20% ROI. 100%. And so for me, I only focus on what's the most important thing that the student needs. Do I really need to go into fibs on day one? Do I really need to go into indicators? Do I need to go into that? No, basic stuff. I break it down from what we would call it trunk-based knowledge. Elon Musk talks about this. It's like you don't start what grows first, the leaves or the actual roots, right? You don't start with the leaves. The leaves are like the most advanced topics. They happen at the end as you grow and become wiser. Right?
You have to set a solid foundation so that there's context when people are learning the rest of it, for sure. Yeah, you don't start with the roof of the house. So for me, like I just go with bare bones, this is what happened, a green candle means
the price went up. Red candle means price goes down. This is where it opens and closes. I'm not going into anything too complicated. And so that's one thing I do with my students. I really break it down like that, because that seems pretty easy. The other thing is, I'm really big into like psychological principles. So you've heard of the Feynman technique by any chance?
Keeping it simple,
Yeah.
explaining it
Yeah.
as if you would explain things to a
KISS.
child. Yes, sir.
Yeah, exactly. And it helps you learn. When you teach somebody, it helps you reinforce the knowledge. So for me, I just dumb that stuff down. Like if I think it's dumb and they're still not understanding that concept, I have to go, okay, I have to dumb this down even more. And so for me, I had an ACP student and he was having a really tough time with like his entries just weren't ideal. Let me put it like that. And it's because he didn't have a great understanding of structure and zones.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did was I actually did a repetitive exercise that would almost train his brain. I think you know who I'm talking about. And so I told this kid, every morning when you wake up, right? Like let's say it's 9 a.m. Eastern. Every day you wake up, you're gonna message me, structure is king. Structure is king. So this dude has been messaging me for like 3 straight months. Every day, structure is king. And he's gotten to the point now where he actually understands where structure is. And I'm telling you, I remember his first call to his last call, which was last Thursday or 2 days ago. This dude went from like selling at support, buying at resistance, to now he's like waiting for that proper confirmation. Like, these are my zones. I'm going to take this trade zone to zone. I'm going to take partials at these structural areas, at these psychological zones. And I'm just thinking like, damn, I shed a tear. I'm like, damn, like he's come a long way. And so for me, like, those are a few things I've done. Dumb things down, start with the basics, and a lot of repetitive exercises will help, because the more you train your brain, it's just like shooting a basketball. Like you shoot it one time, it might be an air ball. You shoot 1,000 times, eventually you're going to get a few in the net. So I'll do a lot of repetitive training with them, because that way they realize, oh, this is a really important thing.
It's the same. I mean, you and I, we always relate this to fitness, because fitness and trading have a lot of parallels.
Yeah.
If you just learn the knowledge of what you need to do at the gym, that's cool. Yeah. But as long as you're not going to the gym, you're not going to get the results. So going in there and actually getting those reps in, training your body, getting your body used to it, building different areas, focusing on certain body parts. If you're trying to get a proportion, if you're trying to get an ideal, that's what really gets you the results. And I think it's the same with trading. Yeah. If we can teach people all this stuff all day, if there's no repetition, if there's no habit breaking and habit rebuilding, there's not going to be a lot of growth. There's not going to be a lot of progress. People are just going to keep going in that hamster wheel. So if there's a few things that you feel like people should start doing or can start doing after listening to this podcast, what do you feel like a lot of folks should be focusing on in terms of their results, their strategy, the way they see charts? What are some exercises they should do? What should someone do after this?
There's so many things. I would say some big ones. Obviously, repetition's key, right? So repetition doesn't mean anything unless you review the results, right? So like you get enough data, you review the data, you say, okay, this is what the chart's showing me. So for me, I think it's important to be able to review every trade, whether you're paper trading or whether you are actually on a live account. Journal your trades. Use an application that will allow you to plug in all that data, where your entry was, stop loss, take profits. Take a screenshot of the before, right when you take that trade, take a screenshot of what the chart looks like. That way, after the trades happens, you can take a post screenshot and you can review and see, okay, where can I gain perspective on this trade? If it did hit final TP, what could I have done better? Like for me, I review the wins just as much as the losses, because if it was a win, I want to keep repeating that win. So I need to know what I did right in that particular trade. Now, if it's a L or if it's a loss, why was it a loss? Was the entry poor? Was it something else? And so for me, journal your trades. It's really, I hated journaling. I still honestly don't love it. I don't think it's something I think it's tedious, but I make it part of my daily, I make it part of like a weekly routine. So like before I'm allowed to enter a trade, I have to actually take a screenshot of it and put it into my like Notion app. Right.
That's
So for
awesome.
me, so that, and it can be kind of, sometimes you have to jump the gun, right? Sometimes like you see a crazy ass move on NAS and you're like, I have to
For
enter.
sure.
So, but I will make sure 9 times out of 10, I'll do that because you have to review.
Yeah.
Now, I think on
Journaling,
top of,
I don't mean to interrupt, but like real quick, the thing about journaling is that it'll keep you accountable. A lot of the time, I'm going to enter a bunch of trades, and then I realize that when I go back to review this on the weekends, it's going to be way too much work, and I'm not going to do it. And so it's kind of an accountability measure to make sure I'm only taking the highest quality positions, because those are the ones like worth writing down, if that makes sense.
yeah, because it's such a pain to, because I have a
Yeah,
section, I have a column that says reasons why I entered the trade. I have to have a lot of reasons to enter that trade. And so for me, it's tedious to write all these things out. And so for me, it's like, okay, I have to really like this trade. And I'm a swing trader, so it's okay. I can take my time to write it out. You're trading sometimes on the 5 or 15-minute time frame, and you don't got time to be, oh yeah, well, I see a double top. We're at resistance. Like you just got to enter. You feel me? So
for sure.
so it's different. It
But
depends on the
I'll
trader.
still go back. I'll still go back in hindsight and review, and I'll still write down the reasons I entered after, because I'm still consciously making that decision at the end of the day. Even if it's an intuitive decision where I just entered the trade because I saw something that intuitively looked appealing, I still have a rationale for why it was. Like I'm always trading directional. I'm always looking. I'm always entering at pullbacks instead of impulses. I'm always looking for a candle confirmation. So really, my strategy doesn't change that much. So the rationale of why I'm taking the trade never really changes. It's just more so about the confirmation I saw and the psychology of me holding the trade, and what I thought before, during, and after the trade is more important than the reasons I entered. Because like I'll give you guys a strategy if you're listening. Third touch on a trend line, 61 break retest, right? With a double bottom at the 61. That's a great technical strategy, but all right, you entered at the second leg, but you were in drawdown for 4 days, and you left the trade because you were in drawdown. And then on the fifth day, it busted for 250 pips and you weren't involved. You chased after 100 pips up. You ended up losing money on that trade. That entire cycle of events is more important than the rationale and the technical rationale for why you entered. So,
right. And I think as you get more experience as a trader, and you really like, this comes with knowing your strategy, you don't have to really sometimes think. It's not about thinking at that point. It's reacting, right? It's natural. And so when you get to that point where you have that strategy set, you don't have to be like, oh well, let me third touch of the trend line, hit a 61 Fibonacci. Ooh, we have a inverted head and shoulder. Like, at this point, you and I both agree, like, we don't have to even pull a fib. We know where the 61 is roughly. We know where the 78 is. Like, we have an idea. And
but that's because we did prep work though. Like I've already found my zone, and I've already made the decision that when price enters that zone, as long as it doesn't, as long as it gives me those confirmations I'm looking for, I'm going to enter that trade. And so in the moment, I'm not making decisions. I'm just executing. All the decisions got made in advance. So that's kind of like the main key.
Ryan, you know what Warren Buffett says? Plan, don't predict.
Oof.
And I think he's done pretty well.
Yeah, I think that guy's done pretty well for himself. Ryan, you got a pretty interesting story back in 2017, crypto. Do you want to share the story, and do you also want to share some lessons from that story?
Damn, every time I think about it, I kind of cry. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, no. So this was literally right when we were doing like those, I think it was like once a month type of like get-togethers at Capitol Ale House, remember? And so we were talking. I remember like I was doing a lot of research over the summer. That was summer of 2017, I think, or 2017 maybe. And I got really into crypto, really like deep. And I started accumulating. I didn't have a ton of money, so I started accumulating something that was affordable. Like Bitcoin was still out of my price range, so I got a lot of Litecoin. I liked Litecoin. It was faster. It was a faster. It had a faster transactional throughput. I liked Charlie at the time. Good dude. We're gonna avoid all that other stuff. Anyways, we know the story. Everything went up. I think I made like 10 grand off of like a $2,000 investment off of Litecoin, right? Everything pumped. I immediately withdrew that near the highs, and I started researching. This is when I got into altcoins. So altcoins started becoming my next obsession because I was looking at the ROI. Like, yes, I could put in this amount of the Bitcoin, but like it's already pretty high. I could find something that's sub penny, and then I could 100x. So I was going for the home runs, and I found I was researching all these different projects, and I landed on this one called Tron. And Tron, to this day, it blows my mind that Tron has still got such a high market cap. Like, it's still around. I was like, wow. And it was probably at dollar wise, it was $0.001. So it wasn't even a penny.
So yeah, less than a penny.
I started looking at it. I got in at 0.005, 10 grand, just all in there. I had to go on the most busted exchange to get it. There was one called Liqui.io. I don't even know if they're around anymore. It was sus, but I was like, I want this. I want this. Liqui.io and KuCoin. I do like KuCoin though, but it blew up to like 15, 16 cents, dude. Like pretty quickly. I think December of 2017, I think it was, is when it like had that peak. Just like that was the last big peak in crypto before the plunge. And so like I had like I had over 3 million tokens of Tron. And my portfolio was like pretty close to $1 million. And I was like 20, 21, 22. Dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. This is just me like being young and irrational at the time. I was literally looking at that money. I go, I'm gonna buy a Bitcoin mining farm. And so I started looking up Bitcoin mining farms in Virginia, and I found one. I contacted the guy who was selling it for like 500 Gs. I was like, yeah, like I think I'd be interested in this. Like, let's set up a time and date. And well, we know what happened. The market crashed really quickly. The good news was I got my mom into Bitcoin. She was buying Bitcoin back at like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. And she had Bitcoin, and I was able to recoup a lot of the Tron that I had, and I shoved it back into Bitcoin. Now I took an L from where I purchased it at the time, but based off of where price is now, we're back up. So I gave that all to my mom because my mom technically gave me that money to buy the Litecoin, so I thought it was only right to give it back to her. And so I think my mom's got left like 3 or 4 Bitcoin just sitting there in her hard wallet now. And I just told her, just hold on to that. Just wait. That's like the best gift I could have probably given you. Like, honestly. So I'm,
the
you know
best
what?
gift.
I'm like, yeah, I lost us some money. Like I could have cashed out. We could have done some stuff with it, but hey, at least you got something valuable that has the potential to get to 100K, and then you can do something with that, mom. So I would say that was the silver lining, but I am kicking myself in the butt because I didn't have an exit strategy. You see, as an investor, like you need to know when you're going to exit, just like a trade, right? You have final TPs, TP1, TP2, TP3. I didn't have any TP. I kept moving the TP up. I said, okay, cool, like 10K. Now I'm at 50K. Let's shoot for 100K. We hit 100K. Let's shoot for 500K. And it got to the point where I kept raising the bar, and eventually the ceiling was too high. And
It'll never be enough.
It was never. I was so greedy. I was so greedy, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. And my mom and sister still, excuse my language, they still bitch at me to this day. They're like, my sister's like, dude, like you could have pulled out like $1 million at that time. Like, I'm like, yeah, I feel you. So that's one I take to the chest. But luckily we still made it a positive situation out of it. So take some learning lessons from my story is make sure you can do all the proper planning and the research. But when it actually is right in front of your face and that goal is happening live, what are you going to do? Like, do you have an exit strategy? Because if you keep holding that dang thing, it could reverse on you at any time, just like it did for me. So, and there are a lot of people that bought Bitcoin at 60K, Ethereum at 4K, XRP, all that stuff. And now they're sitting down in massive drawdown. Most likely they sold in a loss, being honest. So know when you're going to leave a trade. Take some money. Yeah. But I'm okay because I've been investing in crypto. This next bull very heavily.
The last one
very heavily.
Play. I think we'll be okay.
Oh yeah, where we good? Yeah, I think everything's looking good in the wallet. So
we'll be all right.
That's what I would say, man. Don't be greedy.
People, there was a lot of important lessons here. Obviously, Ryan, thank you for stopping by. A lot of great experiences just from You're trading
Mhm.
the past few years. You've working with so many incredible traders. Your time in crypto, the lessons you were able to bring over into the trading sphere from that. So thanks for taking some time today, dropping some gems for traders. And if you guys are interested in working with Ryan, you guys can reach out to us, and he can be your coach for the advanced coaching if you qualify.
Come on, yo. Come on. My students are all, and they're all making money. They're making money. So
This is true.
get the sauce. Get the sauce.
All right, take it easy.